ladies and gentlemen, I was just talking about this a few days ago, why Donald Trump needs the next recession to start as quickly as possible. And I gave a few examples of the things that I was reading in the article, whatever. Makes perfect sense. The gist of it, again, is simple. He just started his presidency. If there's going to be any bad economic downturn, you want it now, as soon as possible, so that over the next few years you can fix it, or what's perceived as fixing it anyways. And then it's time to go for your second term as president. The people are going to love you and demand you remain in there as president. But if we have a problem closer to the end of his first term, 4 years, so let's say that by the end of the third year and the fourth year starts, and it's like, oh my goodness, who's going to be cheering for him then? Everything on the lamestream media is going to be telling you, it happened on his watch, and Obama had 8 years, and yada yada. And when he first started his term, he had to deal with the problem right off the bat, and he dealt with it very rapidly. They're going to tell you all this crap. But in here, there's a lot in this article from Michael Snyder, theeconomiccollapseblog.com. He makes some very, very sound arguments and some quite a few additional things that I haven't discussed yet, which is why I want to talk about this again. And in all honesty, if you were to come to me right now and say, first off, Joe, would you rather have, if there's going to be an economic downturn, do you want to start now, or would you rather have it start, in other words, would you like another gift of almost another 4 years, let's call it, before we have any issues? Like, would you like to skate by for the next 4 years as you are right now, currently? Well, my job's doing great. The business I work for is doing good. No issues there. I'm happy with my salary at work. No problems, financially. I'm okay, you know what I mean? Again, a little YouTube bonus money from these advertisements that I hate putting in there. But it's just a nice little thing on the side. Sorry about that. All that's good. But for the sake of our country, and in order to keep Donald Trump in there a second term, I take one for the team and say, yeah, let's get it on right now. Let's get this over with. Let's get it started and get on as fast as possible. Because I know he just got done speaking with the president of China and prime minister of Japan, and he sided with Japan, the disputed islands. Yeah, we frown on China. China replies immediately, we're not, we're bothered by that statement. We don't like that. It's basically bothering us. But I thought he just had a great conversation with the president of China. I thought you got to, we understand the devaluing thing. We're going to be working on something, together to make it a fair playing field and all this stuff. And then again this morning, I'm listening to the radio on the way to work, checking my sites throughout the day periodically, checking the news, what I call news. China, another devaluation hit. They just, something or another there. Their currency's down today again. I don't know if they call it the devaluation, but it was like the currency's noticeably down again. So what is the agreement? Let's just is there really an agreement, or are they pretending? Let's just do what we do, smile, wave in front of the cameras. Yeah, we had a great constructive conversation, kind of like the great constructive conversations I heard about 6 or 7 different times. Now John Kerry has met with the Russian counterpart on the Ukraine and or Syria, and they have good talks, good ceasefire, and then nothing happens. It's just nonsense. Back to the way it was. The ceasefire's over. Okay. No less than, I think, 6 times. The last time I ended up doing a video talking about it. Like, maybe this will be the one where something gets done. They're actually making a good agreement and stick to it. Never mind. Ceasefire's over. So, anyways, Michael Snyder says, a new recession is coming, and Donald Trump needs it to begin sooner rather than later, as I explained last week. And I think that's the article I kind of picked some stuff out of. Most American voters tend to care about their pocketbooks more than anything else. Naturally, you would. If the next recession were to officially start during the first quarter of 2017, it would be very easy for Trump to blame it on Obama, and then he could portray himself as the one that pulled the U.S. economy out of recession in time for the 2020 elections, or his potential re-election. But if the next recession does not begin until 2018 or 2019, well, everybody's going to blame it on Trump, even if it's not his fault. In politics, who gets the blame for whatever goes wrong is often the most important thing. And if Trump wants to avoid blame for the next recession, he needs for it to start as quickly as possible. For most of 2016, the lamestream media was warning that a new recession was probably coming, no matter who won the election. For one example, just check out this Bloomberg article, which we don't need to. And for once, the mainstream media was precisely correct. Barack Obama left us with an enormous economic mess, and it would take an economic miracle of unprecedented proportions to keep the U.S. economy from going into a recession at this point. During the Obama years, the U.S. went on a debt binge unlike anything we've ever seen before. The U.S. national debt almost doubled. During Obama's time in the White House, it increased from $10.6 trillion to nearly $20 trillion. And that means, and again, why am I feeling like there's something in my dang hair? There's like got freaking lice. Can't have lice. Look at this. Lice couldn't live on the top of that if his life depended on it. But I always hear, he got 10.6. No. It was 9 point something. Bush was walking out the door and he's walking in, and they upped it $1 trillion. You started off at 9 point something. Don't give me this crap. Well, technically he didn't step in. No, it was 9 point something. It's now 20. It's doubled. And that means that over $9 trillion of future consumption was brought into the present. That incredible boost to spending would have shot U.S. economic growth into the stratosphere during normal times. But because we were struggling so much, all we got out of it was 8 years of economic stagnation. In fact, Barack Obama was the only president in modern history to never to have a single year when the U.S. economy grew by at least 3%. And he had 2 terms, 8 years, to try to accomplish that goal. And remember all the years of GDP. GDP was not really, really bad. It's just a little above kind of bad. We want to be better. And then, as I said, revision. The last 10 years of GDP data, we got it wrong. Not a double revision. Can't be, highest I can think of is a quintuple. No, 10 times revision. 10 years of revisions. All in one, here you go. And the new numbers say that every single year sucked. How's that for $10 trillion being printed? And remember, Obama also had the benefit of doctored economic numbers. John Williams of shadowstats.com tracks what the figures would look like if honest numbers were being used. And according to his calculations, the U.S. economy has actually continually been in a recession since 2005. So if that's right, we're talking 10, 11, 12, 12 years now. In addition to government debt, other forms of debt are way out of control as well. The total number of consumer debt in the U.S. has now hit $12 trillion. Let that number sink in. That's consumer debt. And corporate debt has approximately doubled since the last recession. When levels of debt grow much, much faster than the overall economy, it is inevitable that a crash will come. If you look back throughout history, I don't know if you can find a single example where debt has grown this quickly and a crash has not happened afterwards. By some miracle, if we are able to avoid a major economic downturn this time, we will literally be defying the laws of economics. So I will say, if Trump has some things up his sleeve that are just beyond epic, never before done, then that statement could actually happen. It'd be a miracle if we were to avoid a major economic disaster this time. And again, I'm a proponent of history. History says, try as you might. This has to be dealt with. Now hold on. If he really had this incredible conversation with the leaders of Japan, China, and as he alluded to, we're going to be a level playing field. We're going to do something together, and it's going to be sooner than anyone thinks. What does that mean? One world currency? What does it mean? Whatever it means, if it does mean a new currency system or whatever, it could be the way out of this. But again, my question is, okay, so we have this new currency for all, let's say the whole world, one world currency. Let's say the whole world gets on board. I still want to know what happens to the debt. Hang on, cat playing with cardboard, stand by. All right, so again, what happens to the debt? What happens to all these unfunded liabilities? What happens to the 45 or 6 million people who are still on food stamps? What happens to all this? Oh, great, a new currency came out. We've all agreed to start over. Okay, so we start over. What about the debt? All the interest we're paying and all these people, you just tell them we don't owe you money anymore? I mean, again, maybe there's some massive plan that I'm going to be talking about when it happens. If, that's, oh my God, maybe Lindsay was right. Divine intervention, Donald Trump, I'll be the first to say it if I have to. So the unemployment crisis also threatens to get a lot worse in the months ahead. The mainstream media keeps trying to tell us that we are almost at full employment. But the truth is that more than, I've heard 90 million, whatever, 90 to 100 million Americans do not have jobs right now. Yes, there are a few areas of the country where jobs appear plentiful, but there are many more areas where they are not. For example, you will never, ever be able to convince 23-year-old Tyler Moore that the job market is good. Tyler Moore's late December drive to Louisville, Kentucky was one in desperation. He was headed 4 hours west on Interstate 64 to interview for a job. Even if he landed the position, filling his gas tank had left him with $8 to his name. He would have had to sleep at a friend's place until he could earn enough to pay rent. The 23-year-old had run out of options. He'd applied for dozens of jobs within an hour and a half of his hometown of Lovely, once a coal mining stronghold. Instead of opportunities, he had found waiting lists. Quote, minimum wage jobs, fast food restaurants, Walmart, anything like that. A lot of them has already been took, he said, in an Appalachian drawl, explaining that the backlog just to interview was as long as a year. There are no jobs, he said. And he done spread his wings a little bit, didn't he? Try to go out and find them further. Nope. Hour-long waiting list. Mr. What was his name? Mr. Tyler Moore. I'm going to give you some advice if possible. Find something to do on YouTube like that. You can get some kind of viral video going out and make a killing off of it. And then just try to do the viral video thing or something, just something else. Because that clearly ain't working. 4-hour drive. I don't know what to tell the poor guy. If the U.S. economy is in good shape, then why can't people like Mr. Moore find a job? Yes, there's a tremendous amount of optimism in the financial markets right now. And by the way, as I was driving home today, markets all-time high. New records all-time high. So if by the slightest chance in hell that Bo Polney is listening to this video, you said there would be no more highs. It was over. The high was in. S&P, Dow, all of it. It was in. It's over. Bo Pony, you fraud. What say ye? So, again, the markets are soaring, but the exact same things were also true, market soaring, new highs, etc., in 2007. And we remember how that turned out. There is no possible way the S&P 500 can continue to generate an 18% annual return without corresponding economic growth. The following comes from David Stockman. Altogether, the S&P 500 now stands at 3.4 times its post-crisis low. having generated an 18% annual return, including dividends, for nearly 8 years running. To be sure, in an honest free market, that very fact would be a flashing red light, warning that exceptionally high gains over an extended period necessitate a regression to the mean in the period ahead. A lot of people will get caught up trying to predict exactly when the stock market will crash, Mr. Bopony. But but what everybody should be able to agree on is that it will crash, and that we do agree on. Bo thinks he found some kind of secret sauce. McDonald's lent him their secret sauce to find the stock market highs. Bo, you just put that on the Big Mac and eat it, buddy. That's it. There's no magic wand or chart you're going to look at. It's all rigged, so no one can possibly figure this out. Throughout history, stocks have always moved back in the direction of the long-term averages, and this time will be no exception. Why should it be? And just like last time, the beginning of a new recession will likely be accompanied by a major financial correction. In recent articles, I've been highlighting some of the reasons why it appears that a new recession is imminent. Federal tax receipts have gone negative for the first time since the last recession. Job growth at S&P 500 companies has gone negative for the very first time since the last recession. So speaking of the S&P, all-time highs. They have all-time highs monetarily value of that stock, but they also have something all-time high. The very first time since the last recession, companies have gone negative, job growth negative at those companies specifically. The U.S. trade deficit in 2016 was the largest in 4 years. Lending standards have now tightened up for medium and large-sized firms for 6 quarters in a row. Lending standards are also tightening up for consumers. We just saw the largest percentage decline in average weekly hours since the recession of 2008. Gross domestic private investment is down. Consumer bankruptcies are rising. Commercial bankruptcies rising. All of this is not necessarily bad news for Trump. A horrible recession started during the early years of Reagan's presidency. But the U.S. economy turned around later in his first term, and that momentum helped propel him to an easy victory in 1984. Similarly, Trump could actually take advantage of the coming economic downturn as long as he is able to pin all of the blame for it on the previous administration, and that will be no problem when we see we already see the numbers. 10 trillion turns to 20 trillion, etc. Anyways, I had to share this. This is a very, very likely scenario, which means what? It may be later this year. Again, it could be quite later this year, end of the year, where the fireworks get started. That'll still give him 2018, 2019, and then all the way through that to almost 2020. When the elections actually happen, or the next president comes online, if you will. Anyway, so he's been saying it in his campaign. Remember? There's a bubble. The markets are in a bubble. There's going to be a crash coming. He said it then. Now that he's president, oh, no, never mind. No. Believe me, he knows. And he knows that our country controls markets. Oh, the Exchange Stabilization Fund, the President's Working Group on Financial Matters, Plunge Protection Team. Guys, it's a valiant effort, but the party's over. Let the markets do what they're going to do. Okay, yes, sir, Mr. President. Start over, hit the reset button. Maybe the new currency deal comes into play with China while this is happening so that there's not hardly any downtime, so to speak, and we get right back to recovering. Who knows? All I know is it is an interesting time to be alive. Right here, right now, and in recent history, recent years. And I think it's getting more interesting and kind of exciting each and every year, each and every month. Webbot stuff coming true, dams collapsing, all this stuff. Fascinating time to be around. Take care.